Well, it's nice to be back at NFT.NYC. I'm kind of missing the seediness of the Edison Ballroom. This is a little different, but anyway, thanks for joining. Coming this morning on a Friday morning, bright and early after lots of parties this week. So anyway, I'm Steve Wink, partner at Latham & Watkins here in New York, and co-chair of our global FinTech and Digital Assets and Web3 group, and joined by Susan Shelton Vigon of Fox Studios and Don Irwin of Mayer Brown. And could you guys just introduce yourselves? Susan, want to go first?
Yeah, hi. Susan Shelton Vigon, and I serve as General Counsel for Blockchain Creative Labs, which is Fox Entertainment's Web3 studio. So we are reimagining the future of entertainment using blockchain technology. We're one of the only Hollywood studios to have a fully dedicated unit towards trying to bring this technology to a mass audience. So we are bringing Web3 to Web2. It's fun and challenging, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Great.
And I'm Don Irwin. I'm an associate at Mayer Brown, another international law firm like Latham. And more I'm working on blockchain. Recently, it's digital asset custody and tokenization. And sort of the impetus for me being on this panel is probably somewhat contrasting with Susan in that in law school, I worked a lot on NFT IP licensing issues and sort of legal hurdles that Web3 natives face in the space. And that culminated in a project proposal for standardized NFT IP licenses. And that was part of the Cube Innovators Invitational Legal Tech competition that New York Law Schools host. And this was last year, and looking forward to speaking a little bit to my takeaways.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, so we have kind of two contrasting ends of the spectrum here, from kind of the traditional, content owner player to a Web3 native person here. So, I think we'll talk a little bit about sort of the challenges and opportunities, obviously, for NFTs, and but from these two different perspectives, and also maybe get into a little bit of what the future may hold. But Susan, love to hear you talk a little bit about what was the allure of NFTs to a traditional studio like Fox.
Yeah, so, like everyone else, a couple of years ago, executives at Fox were starting to take notice of this space, and across all parts of our industry. So on the creative side, we have an animation studio called Bento Box, which brings a lot of animated content to air, such as Rick and Morty, things like that. And they saw the synergies between the art that's native to the space, that kind of fun, irreverent, collectible type of art, and really wanted to see how we could bring our content more to life in interactive ways to make the fan-creator relationship more robust. In the television world, we broadcast content out, but we don't often get to have an interactive relationship with the fans of our content. And so on the creative side, they were keenly interested in how can we make the fan-creator relationship bi-directional. How can we hear from fans? How can we reflect their tastes and preferences and attitudes? How can we have them participate in our content in more meaningful ways? So that was on the creative side. And then on the tech side, we spend a lot of time at Fox trying to make sure that our streams, like the Super Bowl or what have you, get to audiences seamlessly with minimal friction, and that they're high quality. And we have intermediaries that we have to work through, and there's a lot of pain points in that, having to rely upon a third party to make sure that your content gets to people's homes and computer screens in a seamless fashion. And so on the tech side, we became interested in disintermediation and how can we distribute this content directly, and also give our users more control over that relationship, and particularly the data that they bring to that relationship. So that's how we've gotten started. Do you want me to talk about some of our projects? Or?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
So we've brought 9 NFT projects to market so far in the past say, 18 months or so, and across all spheres of entertainment and sports. So we have unscripted content like The Masked Singer, which is the #1 show on television. We have Fox Sports, which probably you are all aware of. We've been doing drops for their USFL Football League, which just launched a couple of weeks ago, the 2nd season. And then third, in scripted content, we have an animated show called Crapopolis, which is from Dan Harmon, and that will be coming to air in the fall. And so we have explored with each of these properties, how can we create NFTs to create a closer fan-creator relationship. And also, one of the most fun, I think, projects that I've done to date is we brought Dolly Parton to South by Southwest last year as the NFT sponsor for South by. Which she really is the nation's treasure. And we not only minted and distributed the official South by NFT, which was the Bat fan, in Austin. Bats are a thing. If you go to South by, you know that. And we also distributed her album, Run, Rose, Run, on the blockchain. So it was a minted album. And so Dolly fans learned to navigate wallets and to go through all the pain points that a Web2, your typical Dolly fan is not your typical Web3 native. So that was a really fun experiment for us, because at Fox, what we're trying to do is bring this technology to the masses. We like to talk about in the American Idol years, we like to say that Ryan Seacrest taught the world how to text, because that's how you could vote for your favorite singer on American Idol. And we want to do the same thing for Web3, to teach the masses and the American audience how to interact in the Web3 land, and to create wallets, and to partake of all of the opportunities that blockchain brings to bear.
So would it be fair to say that the interest is less about a new distribution channel for the content, and more about that community and kind of building that sort of fandom interaction? Is that fair to say? Or I mean, maybe it's both, but
it's both. Mm-hmm. So primarily we're about fans, and so the interest in the technology is, how can we bring fans and creators close together? And so we've experimented with utility to allow an NFT holder to not only partake of the experiences that you might think of, like an opportunity to get tickets to go see a taping, but also with Crapopolis, which is coming to air in the fall, we have offered fans an opportunity to vote on show elements. So we'll put to the community a vote of a certain aspect of the plot, or we even auctioned off on OpenSea the right for an NFT holder to have their likeness animated and featured in the series finale. So we're trying to gamify and make more fun the prospect of watching content, and trying to make that more of a participatory experience. But on the distribution side too, we are keenly interested in having that direct relationship with fans, because right now, if you want to, there are certainly D2C offerings, we all are kind of familiar with the Paramount Pluses and the Peacocks and the Hulus and all of that. Fox itself does not have its own D2C streaming service, because it didn't make sense from a business perspective, but we are enamored with the concept of not having to go through a cable company or a satellite company, and just going directly to the fan and saying, here's this new show, it's called Crapopolis. If you want to see it, download this NFT, and then this whole, world will open up that offers not only the opportunity to watch the show, but maybe to get rewarded for watching the show, to have the opportunity to vote on the future of the show, and then to see behind-the-scenes footage. Like that's what we do with The Masked Singer. That NFT offers access to our token-gated viewing room, which has interviews that you can't see on air. And The Masked Singer, for those of you that are familiar, it's a singing show where celebrities are masked in these outrageous costumes, and when they get voted off, they get unmasked, and you see who it is. Rudy Giuliani was like a very controversial one that we had. And now what's possible is when that person gets unmasked, you can go to our token-gated viewing room and see an interview with them. What was it like to have this experience? So things like that.
And one of the things, I always get irritated about in viewing content on, traditional ways is, how these various old IP agreements that are sitting around, about various distribution channels. I mean, you have to navigate, I assume, all those, kind of legacy agreements that may be out there, and to get to the place where you can really disintermediate those folks. I'm assuming does that present any special challenges in your world?
It sure does, Steve. It presents a lot of challenges. So in the traditional media space, this is very expensive IP that we're bringing to air, and so you can imagine that it's already been bought. There's already a lot of money that's changed hands, and with that come a lot of contractual obligations and restrictions. So what we found as we've played in this space is our kind of traditional IP, like The Masked Singer or Crapopolis or all of our sports IP, which is very expensive. We have to kind of play within the confines of what we can and cannot do, and that's a challenge. So, for example, can you take an image from a show and mint it as an NFT? That's sometimes yes, sometimes no. Can you have footage as part of your NFT? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. With likeness issues with celebrities and sports figures, can you have NFTs of them? Then they have all sorts of agreements that protect their likeness, and often that comes with paying them more money. So yeah, there's a lot of restrictions, and what we've learned from that is to be more nimble and to play in the space. We are trying to work more with content that we have kind of a green field of rights. With Crapopolis, we actually are the studio behind that show, so we have more rights. That's why we were able to have the animators take an NFT holder head and animate it and stick it in a crowd scene for our series finale. But we're also really interested in content financing and distribution, and so these are shows that don't exist yet, and so that the restrictions aren't there yet. And of course, you have guild issues and all of your traditional problems that come with creating content. But we are trying to innovate just how a project gets greenlit in Hollywood. So now it's kind of a black box of industry wonks in Hollywood who think they know what the public wants, and they make content and they just push it out, and maybe it succeeds and maybe it fails. We are trying to imagine a different world where we have kind of a flywheel of content where NFT holders get the right to be producers of content themselves and to vote on projects that certain producers want to bring to air, and green light those projects, and their NFT revenues will finance part of that content. Now, no revenues will go back to the holders because of the securities issues that we know we have to deal with, but what that holder gets is the right to just have the experience of what it's like to make content in Hollywood, which I think is super fun to have kind of a more democratized way of seeing the content come to air. And we think that fans should have the right to dictate what content we're producing and distributing. So that's a way that we get around those restrictions because it doesn't exist yet.
Speaking of the securities issues that you just raised, I'm curious as to how, I'm sure in your world there are folks that when they hear NFTs or the crypto that they go, oh my God, what are we doing? What's Fox doing in this world? What was the sort of the business case? How did you have to navigate that and and engage people in this space, in this very new and maybe a little scary world for some people?
Yeah, it's super scary for the traditional media space to embrace Web3 technology because not only are we now in this following the crypto winter and this NFT fall up that we're in, we actually see this as an opportunity for reflection because we're a fandom company, so the kind of the speculative asset element is not something that we're interested in. We're interested in bringing content to fans and creating more fun gamified experiences. But within the company, you kind of go on a hearts and minds tour to help folks understand that we're keenly aware of our obligations, and we are also mindful of the potential securities risks, and how can we be smart in creating products that safely allow us to access traditional media. But it's an ongoing conversation, to be honest,
Sure.
and we have different factions with the company. Like you've got folks that are worried about holding crypto. And so, you combat that with kind of a currency hedging policy so that we don't ever hold long positions in crypto for very long. And then on the marketing side, is this cannibalistic? Are we going to be, taking over their market share? And so trying to partner, like our dream is to have, I think maybe some of you guys might have seen the Coinbase QR code at the Super Bowl, last Super Bowl. That kind of like seamless way to bring fans on board is something that our marketing teams and everyone that makes content at Fox understands the value of being able to bring something that's compelling for our fans to come to our sites and to interact with our content more. So I really think we have to provide a compelling offering, not only for fans, but for our teams to bring it to life.
Yeah, and of course, marketing is going to be an ongoing issue in terms of avoiding the securities law issues because of the concern that creating an expectation of profit by a particular enterprise can cause a non-security, like an NFT should be, to be deemed a security. So that's always something that we have to remind our clients to be careful about. Don, let's move over to you and talk a little bit about how did you get into this space? What attracted you? What sort of things were you trying to solve? And tell us a little bit about your project.
Sure. So a little bit different of a path. It starts at maybe 2 a.m. down in St. Mark's after a dive bar. I was sitting eating dollar slice with a friend of mine, a blockchain developer, and he was telling me that he had bought a cartoon penguin worth $10,000. Okay, this is more than a Rolex. This is a used car, right? So I'm asking him, what did you buy, right? Did you, was it a token? Was it a cartoon penguin? Was it a service, a membership? And he's a cartoon penguin, right? And that was his answer to me. So this is like the ultimate law school hypothetical. And so I was in my second year of law school, and I think I had just gotten out of my introduction to intellectual property class that morning. And so, I get home and securities laws issues aside, I start to think, okay, what is the most interesting kind of perspective of NFTs and the law here? And I settled on, intellectual property. I think it's very interesting for the non-lawyers, maybe in the room or as a refresher. Our founders thought intellectual property is so important, back in 1780 something, right, when they wrote the Constitution, that they enumerated in the Constitution that, this happens at a federal level, right? So we have federal law governing intellectual property and copyright, a tangible expression in a fixed medium. Not a specialist, so don't quote me, but. Basically, what you learn in that class is that IP rights are sort of like a bundle of sticks, and you can give them away, you can sell them, you can lend them out. What does that sound like? It sounds a little bit like fractionalization, tokenization. It sounds like kind of what we do in blockchain world, right? And I thought, okay, so this is really, really interesting space. I want to get more involved. I want to learn more and just kind of see how the technology works and how it relates to law.
Cool. Well, I was thinking about when you said, what is it that you actually bought? What did your friend actually buy? Remembering, one of the early events in the NFT world was the Beeple, $60+ million sale. And you wonder, okay, what did the guy actually buy? That NFT actually just pointed to an address on the web, and hopefully that server is going to stay there that has that that art exists somewhere, presumably, and what sort of rights came along with that. Hopefully that you're going to spend that kind of money. You're actually going to do a little research on that and make sure you've got the right sort of rights. But, what were your, things that you were looking at, exploring, and to kind of make that more clear for creators and their customers?
Yeah, right. And NFTs are pretty wild in the sense that you can have a token Actually, that reminds me of the example of basically how this idea of this project started. I worked on it with an attorney named Moritz Stiltz, and he called me one day. We were talking about sort of NFTs, and he told me that he'd seen a tweet by an NFT, I guess a rapper in the space. He goes by Spotty Wi-Fi. And he uses a different high-valued NFT, a CryptoPunk, as his digital avatar. And he had tweeted, I think at the time, something to the effect of, "What do I even own with this token?" I mean, these are tokens trading at between $500,000 and $1 million at the time, right? He could have spent upwards of $1 million on this token, and he's using the photo of his CryptoPunk, the visual representation of it, as his sort of identity. Does he have rights to use that commercially? What sort of rights does he have? And at the time, CryptoPunks had no license. So in effect, he had maybe a personal use license, so he could look at it. Doesn't really help if you're kind of building your brand around this image, right? So we sort of used that as a jumping off point and said, what is the biggest problem in the space related to IP? And I guess the headline takeaway is that, at least at the time, collectors do not know what they're buying, and they don't know what rights they have. And that was due to the fact that I think most projects were launching without any sort of IP license. And I mentioned earlier, IP rights are sort of something that you can lend and you can give away, right? And if you are a creator, ideally, I'd think you'd want to maybe like share those rights with your community if you want, especially from a Web3 perspective, to build a community and sort of like a decentralized platform where folks can kind of share in building and sort of using the IP as a resource, right? And we decided, hey, this space needs education, it needs standardization, and that was sort of the background of our project. And we decided to propose a set of NFT IP license standards that particularly Web3 natives and individual artists and creators can rely on, and maybe even implement on the blockchain and sort of have these in the NFT contract itself.
All right, well, we're running low on time here, so why don't we, I'd like to ask both of you a little bit about kind of what's your vision for the future of this world? For Fox, is there sort of an ultimate state that you guys are hoping to get to, with that decentralization and our disintermediation? What does that look like to you in the future?
Yeah, it's a big question. I mean, we're aware that it's early days in the space. We are in it for the long haul we're an R&D company to try to just figure out how does blockchain technology actually make entertainment better. And that's in a variety of ways, in the fandom that I've been talking about during most of my comments, but also in just how content gets made. Is it possible to put the Hollywood waterfall on chain so that it's transparent? And that means that the waterfall is how revenue gets paid back over time for content. So right now, creators of content are kind of the last to get paid. There's expenses that get paid, and other parties that get the lion's share of the revenue. How can we make what is really a black box transparent and give more of the piece of the pie to creators? We're keenly interested in that. And then reimagining the content creation process itself in a more democratized way. So I think those are kind of the key themes that we're going to be exploring over the next couple of years.
Great. Don, we'll let you have the last word here.
I'm really excited about much the same, right? And that's legal tech, innovation, creating and sort of pushing transparency, right? And that's what blockchain is supposed to do. If we can make sure that NFT creators and folks issuing tokens actually define the relationship between the creator and the collector, whether it's via an IP license or at least some kind of terms of service on the website that actually, dictate the contract terms between the two parties. I think that sort of stuff is really important. I think that's the huge value add blockchain has in the future, which is creating transparency and moving things on chain, so people have a really strong grasp of sort of what am I buying, to go back to earlier, what does this cartoon penguin represent, right? And I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of cool innovation in this space.
Great. Well, thank you both, and thank you.